Then, of course, there's, like I said, the importance of material. And my way of looking at stand-up comedy is there's two parts to it. There's the performance, and there's the writing part of it, writing the jokes and performing them. And most people are, I feel, are better at one or the other. At least I felt I was better a writer than I was a performer when I started. And a lot of people, sometimes you see, you go, that guy's a much better, or a woman. I say guy generically. Please help me on that. But if a man or woman is up there and they're a better performer, you can sometimes see it. They're just a better performer than the writer, or they're a better writer performer, like I talked about with Uncle Dirty's evaluation. And some people, you just know that writing is difficult for them. And if you're really a great performer, and it is a performance art, so performance is key. If you're a great performer, you need to get material. You either have to write it, or you got to steal it, right? Or buy it. You know, you got choices, right? Because you got to have that material. You got to have that act. And back in like 83, 84, I was at the Comedy Store. This guy came up to me and introduced himself to me and said, "I'm Andrew Dice Clay's manager." I said, "Oh, really? Interesting. He said, "Yeah, I'd like to take you to lunch." Now, I didn't have any management at the time, and I thought, this is great. Maybe the guy wants to manage me. So we go to lunch, and I said, I'm going to be sober. I said, I got to just stay sober. You know, that's important that I put a good impression with the guy. So we sit down and have lunch, and he starts talking about Andrew. He said, Andrew's going to be a star. I said, I knew who he was. He was a guy who did these great impressions, Italian impressions, and he did this closing bit where he would transform from Jerry Lewis's Nutty Professor. He would end up doing the Buddy Love thing, and he had the leather jacket, which was really the birth of the Dice character. He'd have the leather jacket we'd end with, instead of doing, Buddy Cool as a suave, sophisticated, he did the leather jacket and acted real cool that way. So I remember, I knew his act. I'd seen Pips in 81, and then I saw him out in L.A. then, and he was doing basically the same thing, and I knew he was a great performer. And he says, yeah, Andrew's going to be a star. He just needs some material, so we'd like to buy your act for $500. I was getting about $5,000 a week in the clubs at the time, and I told him, I said, look, if I sell you my act, that doesn't make any sense to me. No, he says, listen, we'll remember you. Don't worry. And I was like, I've been in the business a while. I can't sell my act. I said, I can't sell my act. So immediately I started drinking, and started ordering more food. And I said, well, at least going to ring up the tab on this. And then it was like one of those moments where you just go, I'm not sure. I couldn't feel out who was a real manager. I didn't know if he really was Andrew's manager or not, or whether he just wanted to go to Andrew and say, I bought this act for you. I have no idea, because you couldn't tell back then. Didn't know. Like one night a guy came up to me after a show at the Improv, and he says, I'd like to manage you. I said, yeah. He said, yeah, give me a call. And he hands me a card, and I put it in my pocket, and I look at it when I get home, and it was a guy was a Pacific Bell sales representative, right? And he'd scratched out sales representative and put showbiz manager over top. So you couldn't tell.